We're so happy.
Smiling.
I know. We're just happy to be here.
I'm so happy. I'm so happy you're here. I know.
Thank you.
Oh, gosh.
First and foremost.
Yes. Welcoming Clarissa Cardenas. I'm getting your name right this time.
That's great.
You
say it almost better than I say it.
Thank you. The Concert Queen official TM. Trademarked.
Yeah.
Shit. Good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You learn all these things, as I'm sure
Yes.
you know as well, like kind of things happen and you're like, oh, okay, gotta go in a different direction. So half the stuff I feel you can learn by trial and error. There's a lot that people don't see behind the scenes that you just pick up on and knowledge, just trial by fire.
Yeah. I had this whole Rock Your Life brand that I didn't trademark or copyright or anything. And somebody else did, and I was like, oh, whoops. And then and I should have done it years ago when I had the idea, and then someone did it because they did literally like a year before I thought about it, and I was like, before I thought about the trademark, I had been using it for years, and so that's the way it goes. Sometimes we live and learn, which I think we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, I feel like I've lived all these different lives, and just to even us meeting, I was a completely different person. I've had all these different chapters and different things, but I feel the person you're meeting today is my most authentic, genuine, self-love person.
Well, that's the direction we want to move in.
Absolutely.
That's the idea. Well, so how are you feeling about that? And what got you here? I want to talk about that.
So I was born in, no, I'm just kidding. There's just, and I appreciate that because I feel like people only see the concert side of me. They only see, and they have a very kind of idealistic view. And I tell people, I'm like, this is a highlight reel. And so I'm very comfortable showing everything because I don't want people to just see that. I don't think that's real and that's not me. I'm way more comfortable doing this, talking to a camera, than I am sitting there and trying to type out a post or sitting there and just whatever. I'm just way more comfortable talking.
It's an easy misunderstanding for people to make because, they just want to, I don't think they want to stretch their brain a lot of times to think of somebody as a real person with a whole, human experience to them or something like that.
That's a great way to describe it. Because I think, like you said, with the human experience, people, I keep saying as because I feel like our journeys and our paths are so similar and very. That's why I admire you so much and everything that you're doing. When I discovered you, I was just like, wow, she is just killing it in all the right ways and inspiration to me. And so I was like, anything I can do to lift her up and then connecting with you. Yeah, you're incredible.
That's the kind of women we want to be.
Absolutely.
The kind of humans we want to be. And I know that I've struggled with that some myself, and it's all coming from a self-worth place for me, or it has in the past, and maybe I haven't wished the best, but it comes from a place of I've been delving into envy and resentment and those emotions and where they really come from. Cause I saw Brene Brown and she was talking about resentment. And she was like, we think that the issue under resentment is and that would be looking at somebody on social media and being like, oh, she doesn't deserve that, whatever, or resenting someone because she gets to go to all these cool parties or whatever, and she said the real thing underneath that isn't anger, it's envy. And really, then I started thinking a lot about envy and what's underneath that. And I read something else that it was self-pity. And really, we're just feeling sorry for ourselves. Why don't I have that? You're feeling sorry for yourself. But if you get to that, you're feeling like you're not worthy of it. And so we have to I've gone off on a tangent. But
no, this is great.
But there's all these things underneath it when we're not behaving in those ways that are really lifting people up. Which is very interesting to me.
So did she talk about how to kind of change that narrative?
She probably does, but I didn't get that far. But I think it's interesting
that you say that because it's funny. I was actually thinking about that the other day because there are triggers, and I think social media is a great example of a comparison game.
And your social media is even a better example of anybody else. I feel like people can look at yours and feel like you've just got it all.
See my face right now? I'm like, what? What is she talking about?
Because you look gorgeous and you've got a cool wardrobe and you're going to badass events and it looks effortless and you didn't do it. You're just but we know you've worked your ass off,
Right. And it's funny you say it. Thank you for saying that. I think I was telling you about the misconceptions is that I've been doing this now for almost 5 years. And it's just interesting to see people that if I make it look easy, as you were saying, then and it looks fun and effortless, I'm doing my job. And that's what I tell people. And it's so funny. I had my friend, I did a sponsored trip for EDC. And so for those that are not familiar, EDC is Electric Daisy Carnival.
I've heard about it.
It's in Vegas.
Yeah.
I didn't even know what I was getting myself into. It was my first one.
It sounds exhausting.
I was just excited. I was like, ooh, yay, first sponsored trip. This is what I've been working towards. And I took my friend, but it was a working trip as well. I was like, she's, working with me. And she's like, I'm going to go do my right hand. I was like, this is what you have to help me get this content. We have deliverables, and deliverables are things that you give to a brand, obviously, when you're, setting these expectations. So I had to do, a certain amount of posts, certain amount of stories and things like that to, in exchange for that trip at that time. And so, her and I were doing a lot of brainstorming on content. She's researching. And when she's on the actual trip with me, she was dead. She was like, I'm so exhausted. First of all, we didn't realize that the actual festival started at 8 p.m. Or it started at like 6, maybe 5 or 6.
It's not an all day thing.
People are camping there. I'm not a camper. I'm bougie. Like, I used to do that back in the day.
I never have.
I see your head shaking.
No, it's not my jam at all.
I've done it. I've done the people that are like, oh, I've been there, done that. I've done the car camping at Coachella and slept in a car. Oof. I've done that. It's moving on up. And so with my friend going, shout out to my friend Kaylee, because I love her, but she just realized, she's like, wow, I didn't really realize how much work went into this. And there was also a patience too. And I even had it the other day where, the July 4th picnic, I was doing some stuff with another company, and my friend that was with me, it's nice to have friends that understand too, like, this is my job. And that is something that I've had, unfortunately, some, I wouldn't say disagreements, but some people's viewpoints are different about what I do. And because what I do is entertainment, they're going to shows, they're doing these things. That's their entertainment. That is their way. They go to their 9 to 5s. They're doing their regular thing. And then they see me and live in this life, but they don't realize that that's actually work for me. And I had a long time like struggling with that. Like, I felt guilty for calling it work because I loved it so much, until I finally got to the point where I just owned it this past year. I was like, no, this is what I get paid to do, and this is my job, and it is this. And if people don't understand, that's on them. And I can't explain that to certain people. And unfortunately, people have left my life that were previously in it just because of those difficult conversations.
Because they were maybe resentful themselves that you're getting to do something you really enjoy.
And maybe. And I hate making any type of assumption with that.
We don't know.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, and I still have a lot of love for those people. Yeah. But it's one of those, for me, I was just like, wow, okay, this is what these people think of me. This is what this person thinks of me. And if that's how they feel, like, I don't have the time to keep going on the trajectory that I want to go and live the life that I want to live, because I've blazed an entire career path for myself that didn't exist.
Yeah, you created it.
And it's freaking hard to build a brand, to do something that hasn't been done before in a different way. People have done it in different ways, but I've always stuck to my core of who I am and what I'm doing. And I was fortunate enough to have a job in the beginning that supported this lifestyle, because people are always like, oh, and it's stereotypical, like, who's paying for all this? They just made a lot of assumptions about me. And I'm like, I bust my ass in medical sales at the time. I was paying for this lifestyle. My dad called me they used to have a term in Dallas called like the $30,000 millionaires. My dad called me like the $100,000 billionaire.
I love it.
He was like, you live this just life, but that's what I spent my money on, was experiences and concerts and shows. So, fast forward to now, it's just a different life, and it's not for everyone, because when people think that they can do,
you don't have a health insurance plan that's like provided by your job. I don't either.
I don't know if they want to see. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. I don't think we want to go down that road. No. But exactly, like, it's become something that I've totally owned now. It's my job, and the people that are in my life, it's the people that I want around me. They're people that I get to engage with, like you, that just are authentic and real. I think that's what I connected with you, is because you were so vulnerable even on like your Instagram and your posts and things that you talk about. And that's just people that are authentically themselves. And that's those are the people that I want around me. Those are the people that I want to connect with, that are all vibrating at a higher frequency. And you just know it when you meet those people that are just there. Like I remember,
I mean, it's taken me a lot of self-work to get there, to be that authentic, because you want to put out the good stuff, but at the same time, are you really that in other moments?
Yeah.
You know?
How many chapters do you think you've gone? I know you said we're always kind of a work in progress.
I'm turning 50, so I don't know.
Did you have any kind of main
1,000?
turning point?
I mean, like, it feels like so many.
Yeah.
Main turning points. I think I think the work I did during the pandemic, when I really just backed off and I'd gotten my second divorce, I think I really was like, what if this is it? I need to learn to be really happy just with me.
Wow.
And if I can do that, then life is taken care of. If you can really just be happy right here. And so it's a process and it's a practice. And that was a big learning for me. I think just truly loving myself and getting rid of some negative neural embedded pathways that just, I would bring myself down a lot. And so that was
wow.
work, you know? So, you want to vibrate at that frequency and you want it to be authentic. And so you got to do the work here to do that. You can't just put it out there. It's not going to just be like a magical thing, because other people pick up on that. You pick up on that. I pick up on that about you.
Yeah, you totally can. You can tell when someone, to me, and I think it's just from all of the, like you said, these different things that I've done has kind of led me to this point of self-love and self-awareness. And I feel like I do have all these different lives of people. You know, I am a life coach, like a certified life coach, did IPEC, went through their whole 10-month course. I did improv for a while at Dallas Comedy House.
I got to do that.
It's so great.
I've got to. They say it just makes you better in all of life.
Everything. And I did that for 10 months. I performed. So I did all these different things, and it's been the culmination, I feel like now, to who I am, and from the therapy and from being authentically me. I just feel I'm not constantly, and I think that's another thing that my friend and I were talking about, is that being comfortable like where you are right now. It doesn't have to always, there's always, and I think that's another thing that we're constantly being bombarded on, is just, you need to work on yourself. Here's this self-improvement seminar you need to go to, or this book you need to read, or this post you need to, there's just constant noise. And so I think it's okay sometimes just to, you know, watch my stuff. But I think it's okay to take a break sometimes and just be happy and be present. And I think that is a gift that I have, that even when I was going through my life coaching certification, they told me, they go, you have this ability to, I'm hyper present. So like, we'll have this conversation and I'll totally forget what we talked about.
Well, because you're present in the next moment.
Exactly. I literally forget.
You're just living present.
I forget. And like when I do
I do too.
When I do my podcast with my producer, he's like, can you write show notes? Can you do this other stuff? I'm like, I have no idea what we just talked about. And he's like, Clarissa, you were literally there. And he's getting it now. He understands, but it's because I'm so hyper present and I'm so there. But I'm also able to have this really zoomed out view. And I feel like you have this gift as well of this intuition about people. And I'm always kind of, my main thing is, what are people's intentions? And that's my filter. And I look at people, everyone that I meet, you can see if they're coming to you as their most authentic self, or if they say, and this is again where the improv and the life coaching, like I'll hear someone say something, or they're watching their body language, and I see, you just learn, and I've gotten really good at it. So
it's a skill, I think, that you can hone over time. Well, so what do you, like, do you have any examples?
Yeah, like, well, and I don't want to, and I'm not a person that I'm not like a man basher. I love, men are great. It's so funny. There's a lot of peacocking that happens, as I'm sure, where there's a lot of testosterone, or a man is if he's trying to impress me or say something, I can pick that up really quick. Or if he says something like a little egotistical, or
totally,
they're trying to take control over the situation. Yes. And there's just different, I have examples, but I don't want to.
But I think we can know. It's so funny because, like, in hindsight, you know at the time, we just don't allow our intuition to really accept it.
Exactly.
I think. At least I can know. I know I've done that a zillion times. And then as you progress, or maybe get older too, you start to go, oh yeah, I know that.
Right. And I even filter myself too. Like and it's kind of the dynamic. I'm very attracted, like when I do date, I'm very attracted to unfiltered people because I just love the rawness and the emotion that people can just so freely say. And I have to stop because I'm like, where's my filter? Because and before I say something too, like if I feel like something someone said triggers me, I'm like, oof. Okay, what's my intention with this thing I was just about to say? It was coming from a place of ego. It's nothing, it's not gonna, there's no reason to even say that. And I'll stop myself. And I'm learning I have a really good friend who's, she's an artist. Shout out Steph. I love her. Somi. Her and I are just connected, and she's been just how she kind of navigates that world too, and will just be calm in these different situations. And I admire that a lot because people, like you said, will trigger. And I'm a person that I have no poker face. I get that from my mom. We just show my emotions on my face. So I'm learning even more so now to even take more of a step back to just let people, because there is a lot of egos in the music industry and people, I'm nice to everyone, and just to see how, and I part of that too is just to see how they're going to react. Yeah. And see, like I said, I can see that filter. I'm like, who is this person? How are they? I'm reading body language, even unconsciously. I'm just seeing it, and I can get a vibe. And I just think your energy too just attracts certain people, and it will automatically repel others. And I'm very grateful for that.
Me too.
As well. How do you protect your energy when you're in that kind of space?
I tend to take breaks. I'll give myself some space. I'm not one that has to stay right in it. And like, I will go to the bathroom. I will at like a party or something. I've done that forever. And really? I think it does, like, I think I was naturally protecting my energy in some ways that, and like even at a dinner with people or something like that, sometimes I won't have to go to the bathroom, and I'll just go to the bathroom and stand there and just kind of take a break. And I don't know.
So anyone, if you see Amy leave during your dinner party, you know where she's going.
You know what? I wonder, actually, just talking about this, I wonder if that's why I smoked for so long, because it was like a way to just not only go and get away, but also I've always kind of contemplated this too, if it was like a focus on your breath, because you can see the breath, it slows it down. And I mean, it took me a long time to let go of smoking too, especially in party situations. Maybe I had a revelation.
Giving yourself some space.
Yeah. It's a way to take a break. That's pretty, and all you smokers, maybe you just need an energy break.
Analyze the action. And that's where, I think that's the biggest thing that I'm constantly doing, is just looking at the action behind. I'm like, okay, what is it behind this that I'm doing, or why am I doing this? Is it going to help serve me? Is it going to better who I am? And then there's also times too, I think that was the hardest thing. And I think as everyone with the pandemic, it forced me to stop and rest. Yeah. My friends called me too speedsy, because they were like, you're either 0 or 100.
And so I was too speeds. Find more of a,
and I would just off to the races. And then now I've finally learned, I'm like, there is such a thing as rest. I need it.
And balance.
Which I didn't have before. And I'm a person that, as extroverted as I seem, as much as I love it, it does take a lot of energy. So that's where I'm like, okay, I need to go and recharge.
And you like to look good too. And if you just like 100, like, it takes a toll. We've got to sleep. Beauty rest is a real thing. This is the thing. I wanted to talk about backing up just a second to that unfiltered, when you were talking about and attracted to unfiltered people. And I think sometimes, and paying attention to what we say, I've been doing that really carefully, I would say, for a while now. Even if I send a text or something, I go, am I really being honest in this moment? Is this coming from something, maybe I'm trying to manipulate the situation? Maybe I'm trying to shift the perspective just a little to my advantage. Like those little bitty things that we do that aren't fully honest and aren't fully authentic. And those are...
But you have the self-awareness.
Yeah. And you have to stop, but you have to get in a practice, I think, of stopping yourself.
100%. Because that's your natural trigger, and it's all stored in your nervous system.
Yes.
So it's going to happen. And that's where you're like, okay, but it's stopping. And I don't know. I know there's different ceremonies and things that people can do to kind of lift these different things out of your nervous system and habits. And for me, I just got tired of working on myself, because I felt like I just did this whole self-improvement journey, read every self-improvement book, and I was just like exhausted from everything. I'm like, there's always going to be something more I can do
to fix.
Exactly.
Are you ready to up-level your pleasure practice? I have in mind, and one of the tools that I've used is from Wands. That's Waands. One of my favorite items that they have is the Cervix Wand. It is their #1 best-selling glass pleasure wand for vaginal and anal de-armoring. That means more sensation. That means more getting in touch with your body. It's designed for cervical and G-spot stimulation, and it has helped thousands of women become more connected to themselves and their own pleasure while supporting them to heal pelvic pain through self-yoni massage. So if you are curious about getting more in touch with yourself, then I have an offer for you. You can get a discount using my code Amy Edwards, but if you use the link in the show notes, you can get 20% off from Wands. They have so many other beautiful items to choose from, with a large selection of 100% pure crystal pleasure wands. They create the most gorgeous, luxurious products that encourage you to honor your body, celebrate your sexuality, and live in pleasure, which is a big part of what we're about on this show. And yes, I use one myself. So go today to wands.com, that's WAANDS, and use the code Amy Edwards for 10% off, or use my link in the show notes for 20% off of your purchase from Wands. Again, my favorite is the Cervix Wand. It is trademarked and it is amazing. Take it from me. Check it all out and the reviews on wands.com. That's WAANDS.com, and use my link in the show notes for 20% off.
There's a paradox in there where you're telling yourself you're broken if there is something that you need to fix.
Wow.
Need fixing on. I know. And so getting to that space of like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah. I literally have, it's not even from, it's not from an arrogant place. It's just from a
no.
Okay, I've done the work. I've done it. I've been to therapy a couple of times. I've gone through these different things, and my next chapter now is to take that to the masses in different ways, and not to preach to people, but to help people, support people, hold space for other people that need it, and sometimes hold space for myself. Give myself that self-practice as well. And like you said, I think there's always room for improvement.
Yeah.
But it's not,
you're not
beating
saying
yourself
there's
up
nothing
about
it can improve on.
Exactly. But it's just, there's so much between, especially as females in the world that we live in and doing what we do. And I think that's, yeah, my identity is not linked as well to, that was another big thing for me is people. I'm sure you know some people too that you look at these people and you're like, wow, what would that person do if they ever lost that job, or if they ever lost this community, or something happens, or if they ever broke. There's just different kind of what if situations where you see a person who is just, branded, loves a certain company that they work for. And I was that person with my first medical sales job. I was like
wrapped up in identity.
Loved it. That was my identity. That was my ego. My ego was attached to my job with medical sales. I was like, oh, I'm a hot shit. I'm 23, 24, making all this money. And I remember the first day I walked, it was the most humbling first day ever, which the universe was like, nope, not doing this. We're not going to do this for the next couple of years. So I sold medical supplies and all kinds of equipment and things like that. And I walked into a waiting room. I haven't been in one in so long. So,
what are they called?
Crazy to me. Yeah. I was like, what's patient waiting room? And I was there, and I remember I was waiting with the other reps that were in there. And I just, again, such bravado and pride. And they're like, oh, what do you do? I was like, oh, I sell like lasers and tables and set up offices, and just, again, thinking I was just hot shit. And then the nurse comes out and she's like, oh, Clarissa, all we need this week is toilet paper. Talk about like walking out with your tail between your legs. And I was like, okay. And never,
I guess I sell toilet paper.
and
too.
ever since then, when I did that job, literally for the next 6 years, people would be like, "Oh, what do you sell?" I'm like, everything from toilet paper to lasers. Like, that's good, because it was true. It was but that was the humbling experience, and I feel like if you don't listen to those things, the universe will keep coming at you in some way to give you that humbling experience. And like I said, it really was my identity for the longest time.
Well, so what about this job? I mean, it seems like a huge part of your identity. I think that if I was in your shoes, I would have a hard time if for some reason it went away. Like, how do you stay separate from making that your identity?
It comes back to that moment of what happened. So, not to get too deep, and
get too
just
deep.
a trigger alert for some people, but I was sexually assaulted in this job. And I had just moved to Dallas, and I talk about this on my show in depth because it kind of came out in a show. And
how long ago was this?
This was almost 7 years ago.
Okay.
And it rocked my world.
Yes.
I'd never experienced
in that job, right?
It was in that job. It was in.
You've told me a little bit about it.
Yeah, and it was awful. I think I was working for a big 5 company in the world.
Wow.
I did not want to come forward. I was at this point, I'm like 5 years in and just killing it, doing great, selling lots of toilet paper. And,
your toilet paper game is strong.
Toilet paper game, #1 Scott tissue rep, just kidding. But was just doing amazing. And I got this giant territory in Dallas that I had beat out a bunch of other reps across the country for. So I moved from San Diego, and I loved San Diego. And when I moved to Dallas, I was there for maybe about a month with this big territory. And I had 2 different kind of managers. And not to if you want more, you can literally hear the whole story, but basically was sexually assaulted and just felt everything that surrounds when a sexual assault happens. You blame yourself. What did I do to attract this? What was I, and I'm like, I did everything. I was wearing a turtleneck, all these different things. I didn't bring a partner with me. I didn't have all these different, you blame yourself. So I went through this whole process, went through the entire team. Dallas-Fort Worth was probably about almost 35 reps at the time. I remember walking into a sales meeting and I didn't want to share. I was just trying to leave, but I couldn't even get my emotions under wraps. I was crying every 5 seconds, having panic attacks for the first time.
Oh my God.
And I walked in when it became public to the company. People knew something was going on. I remember walking into the room and they all got up and moved to the other side of the room. And that was probably one of the most heartbreaking things to go through, to feel so alone in a city that you just moved to. You don't know really anyone. I'm now ostracized. The one thing that I loved, I don't enjoy anymore. My job, my identity. Who am I now? I don't know who I am. It was bad. It was a really low time. And that's when I started seeing a therapist, and I ended up seeing her and getting medicated. And that's where I'm a big proponent of people doing what they need to do. There's no shame in taking what you need to take. I know there's naturopaths out there, but I needed just to get the wheels turning again. I got on some antidepressants and then was going to therapy. And that was kind of what even transitioned me over as I started to really go through that process and I started to heal. I ended up going, and that's another thing. I don't think people should just get so fixated on one therapist. If that one therapist doesn't work, it's okay to try to find another one. And I ended up finding another one just for the court case because it went there. Like I experienced the whole thing. And
how long did that take?
Well, I didn't go through with the actual going to trial, but I experienced the backlash, the slut shaming, they had a private investigator was going to go through all my emails and go through everything, wanted my sexual history of past partners since I was 18 years old.
Oh my God.
Like the re-traumatization that happens to a lot of victims is awful. So
Yeah.
I really empathize with women that have gone through that because I understand.
I had a date rape incident in college, and when all that stuff was going on, excuse me, with the Supreme Court Justice Brett, whatever his name is, And, that woman came out and said that happened to her at a party with him. And I started thinking, like, what if that guy from college was up for Supreme Court justice? Like, what would I do? And really, I went there and started like really entertaining that thought. And it's so weird when you like force yourself to really think about something. And I was like, there's no way I would put myself through that. But then I was like, but how could I not? But how could like I admire her. I admire women that stand up. I admire you for doing it.
Yeah. And there's so many women I just have, because I've told you about like the nonprofit that I want to start.
Yes.
That I am going to start. And that is my calling. And that's what I'm meant to do. But just to I was watching the Surviving R. Kelly. I went through that whole series and just seeing these women that were these people that just side with the bravado of these famous people. And like you said, they stay quiet because I've felt the backlash. I felt the repercussions of speaking out and knowing. And a girl, it's the reason I didn't even want to say anything is because there was a girl previously who was we were in the same training class. And I think something happened to her at a sales meeting, but it wasn't an assault like mine, but it was just someone saw something at a meeting that somebody did, and then she immediately was slut shamed. So, and it was an 85% men kind of company because we're talking to the nurses. So they wanted the men to talk to the nurses most of the time and the job that we did. But that was where that entire thing was just so traumatizing. And I had this amazing, amazing therapist who just gave me tough love. It was this older guy, and I remember walking in there and I told him, I was like, I think I'm going to join a support group. And he's like, no, you're not. I was like, why? And he's like, you're not doing that. And I just was like, well, I feel like he's like, no, because here's, and this is what I tell other people. And I've taken all these little nuggets with me, but he's like, you are not that. You're not that was an event that happened to you in your life. Like people get in traffic accidents. That's an event. That does not define you. This is not going to define you. You are going to move on. It's like, damn, okay.
Yeah.
Money well spent. And then next session. Next session, I'm like, I can't get out of bed. He's like, you can get out of bed. I was like, no, I physically can't. He's like, do your legs work? Yes. You can get out of bed. You're just choosing not to get out of bed. I was like, oh, damn. That's tough love, but that's exactly what I needed. And that's why I wanted to get into life coaching, because the previous therapist, I was constantly just being reminded once I started to heal and I decided to leave that job, because that was the other thing. I felt like I couldn't leave. I was trapped in that job from what had happened and had to be there for the court case. And then when I was just like, I'm done with this. I don't want to go to trial. I have all this, that's like you said, the Me Too movement and all these different things of people speaking out. I was like, I don't want to speak out. I still have this whole career. I was 27 maybe.
Yeah.
So when that happens, you're just thinking of all the future, and I didn't want to have that. That's the other stigma, is I feel like there's just this black mark next to your name when they do a check or something like that. And I was like, I'm going to be blackballed from the medical industry, and that's going to affect my career. So now what? So I just was like, I just want to go and find something else. And another testament to this therapist, he made really quick story, but and it's just very powerful to me, he's like, imagine you're walking down the street and there's a black dog. You get bit by the black dog. The next time you're walking down the street, if you see the black dog, you're going to tense up. You're going to get triggered. You're going to be scared. You're not going to want to walk by that black dog. You walk down the street the next day and there's a brown dog. It's not the black dog, but it's still a brown dog. You kind of tense up, but it's not the black dog. And then you keep walking down, and then there's a little chihuahua, little barking at you. You're like, okay, I can handle that. And you walk past. He's like, what you're experiencing, he's like, you need to get to the little dog. You need to change your space. He wanted me to move back to San Diego. He's like, you need to get out of Dallas. This place is only, as long as you live here and as long as you are in the same job, you are with the black dog every day.
Yeah.
And that was so powerful to me, because I was like, wow, okay, there really isn't any shame of walking away.
No.
It's where I think a lot of people want to just stay in an environment because it's comfortable or because they don't know any other options.
It's familiar,
right?
Too. I'm just reading this book, The Body Keeps the Score. I don't know if you've read that.
I would love to read that.
But I'm just starting it. But the part I was reading just today was he was talking about a victim of trauma. Sometimes we'll just stay with it sheerly because it's familiar and keep going back to it. And so it's comfortable and
Safe.
maybe you're just like shell shocked from being scared too. And
yeah, well, the life coaching. And so I learned what a life coach was. And I think a lot of people call themselves life coaches. So there's kind of a stigma around that. But I actually,
oh my God, everyone's a coach.
Everyone's a coach. Everyone's a life coach. And that's hard for me too, to hear people that try to say that they're coaches. I'm like, but what's your formal training? Like, I actually have formal training. I was the only person out of my class not to actually go become a full-time life coach. Because at that time I was making all this money, still in medical sales in a different way. But I remember.
How was the training for that? Was it
amazing?
Really?
Well, it's talking about guilt. So I felt a lot of guilt that I was not using my certification like all these other people. And I was like, I feel like I should be. And they had this amazing, everybody that works there at IPEC, which is incredible. It's a great coaching place. Everybody that works there is a coach. So when you call, like I would call up there and you could talk to fellow coaches about whatever it is. Cause I was like, hey,
So you're going to get some kick-ass advice.
I'm feeling kind of guilty. I'm not using and he's like, did you get something out of it? I was like, oh yeah. I learned so much about myself. I was able to heal from all these different things. And he's like, well, there you go. You got your money's worth. You don't need to be serving other people if it served yourself. I was like, damn. So all these things, I get all these nuggets and I'm very lucky, but that is where I truly learned that my identity was not in medical sales. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And I actually went with my best friend to a Don Miguel Ruiz Jr.
Cool.
here in Austin. I came down from Dallas at the time. Him and I went to this, I don't even remember. It was just a summer, but I remember he had us write down, it was an exercise we did where he's like, write down your name, write down everything, all these different names that you call yourself. So it was like, if you're a sister, and I was like, Pia, my company at the time, and then all these other things. My sister, I'm whatever.
All the roles,
all the names that you define yourself by. And then he was like, none of those things are you. You are you. And that was another big light bulb because I'm a huge Don Miguel Ruiz fan. The 4 Agreements is literally what helped pull me out of depression to move on and continue and then to want to become a life coach. It was like, I want to help other people. At the time, I thought I wanted to help people transition out of therapy and get out of, because there's a lot of healing that comes from therapy. Some of those things, and I think that's where a lot of coaches in themselves too, is that they need to do the client justice, where if it's not something that they are trained, especially medically trained, if something's deeper, a deeper wound that needs healing, that you have to be able to make that call to say, hey, you might lose this client, but it's best for them to go to therapy and then come back to me when you're ready to go on to the next chapter of your life. Because I feel like people don't do that. Everyone's trying to kind of protect their space in a different way. And again, I haven't been to a personal coach in a really long time, but the one that I went to, I was about to start going to one. And I was like, I'm good. It's like, I don't want to work on myself more. I was like, I feel good. And that's like I was telling you. So when all that happened, and that's where I am now with my identity. And I'm just, this concert queen thing is its own thing and I'm grateful for it. But my intention behind it is that it's to connect with people. And it's social media. And I look at it as a tool. It does not define me. I'm not defined by would I love more followers? Absolutely. We all would love but in my mind, my intention for that is because I'll have a bigger audience to spread the message of positivity, femininity, empowerment, that kind of message. It's not for ego. It's not just, hey, I want to see how many likes I get on this booty pic or something.
Yes.
Not knocking that. I think that's, if you got a booty, show
Your
it.
booty pics are great.
Your booty pics are great. You do whatever you need to do for yourself, but that's always my thing. My intention behind it is always, it doesn't define me. And I think during the Black Lives Matter movement, that was a huge shift for me in my platform, because I posted a photo of myself and I was just attacked for the timeliness of it, for how I looked. People
you're not being conscious of
you're not being socially conscious. It was literally to raise awareness for, it was called like the Queen's Takeover. We were raising funds for SAFE and all these other things. And I just got attacked. And I remember because we're talking about identity, my self-esteem and my self-worth was tied. Prior to that, I got all my validation from comments or from likes or from people just complimenting me because I didn't love myself. And so whenever someone would say something positive to me, I'd be like, oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Like and I still get like that, but now it's a different coming from a different place of just appreciation versus like, oh, they're validating me. Thank you. Thank you for validating me. So then when someone comes, more, give me more. I am a Leo. So
are you?
I love compliments.
When's your birthday? It's coming up.
July 28th.
Oh, happy early birthday.
Thank you. But the criticism though, when you're in that same space, it would knock me down. When I would get one negative comment, it would just eat at me. And so when I did that, I had all these comments and I was just going, and one of my friends was like,
did you take the post down?
No.
Cool.
Left it up there. Left it up, but I just had all of these people come at me. I don't want to call them Karens because my cousin's name is Karen. I just feel guilty calling people Karens, but for the sake of what that word is, it's just people that were coming at me. And I was like, you know what? Everyone is going to have an opinion about me regardless of what I do. I can't do this right for them, or if I do this, like someone's always going to have an opinion.
Yeah.
And that's what I realized. And I was like, from here on out, I'm just going to be myself and make myself happy. And if I'm living authentically as me, that's what makes me happy. And if they don't like it, there's a button they can hit.
That's
and
right.
They can change it. And this is my platform. But at the end of the day, that's what makes me happy. And I've been living in that. And I feel that. And I'm so empowered and I feel good to be there now than where I was before. Yeah. I think you come from a different place and you attract different people when you're constantly kind of seeking that. So I have this nice just balance with it where, like you said, my identity is definitely not tied into it. And I even had this girl, I don't know where she is, but her name's Natalia. And she came up to me at the Willie's 4th of July picnic. And it's funny too how the universe just kind of puts people right in front of you when you need it. And my friend and I were kind of talking about just some other local business stuff. And I was like, I feel like I should do more of this. And then this girl just comes up to me and she's like, I just want to tell you, like, please keep doing what you're doing. Like, I'm such a big fan of yours. And I've been following you for a really long time. And I was like, don't run away. Because she was like, going to run away. I was like, don't run away. Like, let's talk. Yeah, let's talk. Like, where are you from? And I could tell she was nervous, but I get it because she's connected to me in her own way. And she's like, I just love what you do. And it clicked with me again. This is just this past weekend. I was like, I'm doing my own, this is me. This is my platform. This is who I am. I don't have to be like other people, or I don't have to compare myself because we're all different and special in our own ways. And we all have our own followings. People are connected to you and you're affecting lives and changing lives that you don't even realize, which I think is because we are living so loudly and in front of everyone.
And there's a weird challenge almost to stay conscious about the things that matter to you and still live a beautiful life and have a good time. Yeah. And, when I hear about any shooting, really, those hit me really, really hard. And so, you go, well, do I post a good time of the 4th of July? Am I doing my part? But it's again, what people see is a highlight reel versus it's about getting that grip on what you're seeing on social media. And it's always an invitation. I think those people that are coming at you or whatever, it's always an invitation to step back and drop judgments and like, where am I judging and where am I spending my time judging?
Right. Well, people love to make their own, because it's out of a fear. It's usually fear-based too. It's because they see you doing something that they themselves have never stepped outside their comfort zone to do. And so that's why it was interesting in the very beginning when you were talking about that with Brene Brown. And because that is something that being the person that I am, and I've actually been able to shift my competitiveness, but it's always like, if I do see something like that, it's not even comparison, or it's not even a trigger. It's like, okay, I see them and I've now done this enough to know that what is it about that particular person or that thing that I want or that I am envious of. And it's because I want it for myself. What do I, and I start reverse engineering. Okay. And I write it down and I'll take a note of it. And then I'll reverse engineer and start figuring out how to do that in my own way, in my own special way. And we get a lot of there's a lot of, I always say often imitated, never duplicated, because there's only one me.
Yeah.
But I think that's where sometimes I feel like I get a little anxious sometimes because I feel like people are coming for me in my own head. They're in this competition with me that I don't know about. And sometimes they are in a competition that I don't know about, but it doesn't matter. I'm like, cool, there's room for everyone. We can all do our own thing, but you're so unique in doing what you do, and I'm so unique in doing what I do. But if we could just work together in some capacity or figure out how to raise the frequency, it changes the game.
Do you think feeling like that is a habit that you've developed, or do you have to do certain practices every day or to reconnect with that space?
That's a great question. A lot of it, I think, comes from creating the life that I want to live. If I wasn't currently doing what I was doing and I was still in medical sales, or I was doing something that didn't make me happy every day, it'd probably be worse. I would be very envious. That's the people that are passive aggressive, the people that are ugly towards other people. It's because they're too chicken shit to do it themselves, literally. And I feel like the people that want to just talk about that, I don't have that. I think birds of a feather flock together too. So it's funny when I see certain people hang out, I'm like, oh, that person's a gossip. And it's funny that they're also hanging out with this person who's also, they tend to just roll together. And that's where I said I've been thankful that my energy doesn't even go in that direction. But I think for me, it has just been, my life is so full. There's so many things that I want to do and things that I'm currently doing that I don't have time to.
You just spend your energy there.
I spend my energy on myself or the things that I'm doing, and I don't have the time to even, like you said, go there. That's why I said I'll watch other people's things, but if it's affecting my mental health in a negative way too, it's okay to mute someone. It's okay to not watch their stories. It's okay because there's always something else going on behind the scenes.
Yes.
We don't know about. Always.
And that was my next question. I was going to say, like, do you ever find it challenging to find compassion for those people? But you find compassion when you reconnect with the idea that there's always something else going on.
Right. There's always something else going on, but then there's just people that are just spiteful and mean, and got no time for those people. I don't keep anyone around me that's like that in my life. Like I said, I've gotten to the point where I'm accepting of, okay, that's not for me and this person. And you don't want to burn bridges necessarily, but if it's just not, you've tried to make it work, you've tried to do different things, this person. And I think it's okay to kind of outgrow friendships or outgrow relationships and be this better self. Like to think of who I was with my college boyfriend versus who I am today are just night and day. And then just seeing people too, like I'll meet, even if it's a guy or something, I'm like, wow, that guy's got a lot of work to do on himself. Like, I don't want that. I don't want certain things that kind of come up that I'm like, nope, I just don't have the time for that. Because there's those people that, and some people enjoy that. I have some girlfriends that love the guys that they have to fix.
That's a whole nother thing.
The challenge.
I've got a few books for those people. Yes, because I've been there.
Yeah, and I have too.
Obviously,
I have too. And there's a whole pattern that I was replicating, and so for me now, I'm like, okay, no, I've been able to shift who I'm attracted to, what I like, and it's crazy how your mind will immediately, it just kind of pushes. I'm like, oh, I don't even find that person attractive anymore that I used to, because it was all about proving my worth to that person. And now I'm like, that person's not even that cool. Like they're not someone I need to prove anything to.
I did the exact same thing.
Really?
Like, when I was dating, like right before I met Justin and stuff, just some people that I had been dating. I was dating several different people, and I just all of a sudden just lost an attraction. And I was like, well, isn't that, I just was like stepping back going, that's interesting.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, I guess I just am not even interested anymore.
You're evolving and you're changing, and
yeah, that's really a wild thing when that happens. And it was me doing that self-work. It was still that pandemic era.
Yeah.
Like,
wow. See, and people forget that, I think, because it's all about a lot of surface, we're constantly being bombarded by surface level, and of people's appearances and attraction to me is just deeper than the surface. There's not, and I've become more of a sapiosexual as I've gotten older as well. I'm very attracted to people's minds, and how they're impacting the world, what they're doing, how the work that they've done on themselves. And because I meet people, I'm like, oh God, I can't do that. Don't have the energy for that. Or, oh, this person, anything that now. And I guess because I am so focused, I'm hyper focused on what I'm doing. And it's finally hitting my stride. And so now that I have it, I'm protecting it. And if there's something that looks like, ooh, that could not, whether it's someone coming into my home and my home is my sanctuary. And just, you're exactly like, we have the same kind of the vibe in the space. You got to protect that. I'm just so big about protecting my energy and where it goes, because I 100% feel it impacts everything that goes on.
It does.
Yeah, I'm sure. And I have a girlfriend who, she invests a lot of time in relationships. I had a friend one time, she would go on dates. That's what she wanted. That was her goal. And I was like, wow, she would just channel that energy into herself.
Yeah, date yourself.
Yeah.
Date yourself.
Yeah.
Take yourself out to some things. And then, I mean, like I forced myself to do that, to have a sexual relationship with myself, like all these things. And I was like, it was pretty weird at first, but it was really good. Yeah. I wanted to also, there was something that you mentioned when you were talking about speaking out and, the Black Lives Matter stuff. When you sat down, we started talking about Dolly Parton, and you saw a candle back here of Dolly. I love her so much, but you mentioned that she was one artist that hasn't ever gotten political. I think she has maybe spoken out some about gay marriage and, love is love. I can't quite recall, but how does that hit you? Do you think we need to use our voice more for things that we believe in and really stand up for that? I mean, I'm not knocking Dolly. Don't you ever get me wrong about that.
Yeah.
So.
And where that comes from is from the documentary that I watched about her. And they said she never speaks about anything kind of like political or religious. I think, she is religious or practicing.
But she's personal about it.
But she's still, right. Everything, she's kept her personal life private. She has a lot of those elements, and she just figured it out early enough, like what worked for her. For me, I do feel like sometimes Instagram is limiting in what I want to say. Because I love talking. I want to say, and I hate being censored.
I mean, my friend Bijou just got her whole Instagram just deleted.
I saw you post.
Yes, Mushroom Mamacita. She's now Microdose Mamacita. But if you have heard her on the show or anything, that's where you can find her now.
Things happen, and like you said, it's like you have to be prepared and any kind of backup plan. But I feel for me, my platform is. It's funny because I was literally talking about it this morning. Love is love. I don't want to. To me, it's just common sense. I don't want someone telling me what I can and can't do with my body. If there's certain situations or certain things, and I've had to have some difficult conversations with people that I love about these things. But I approach it too from a place of, I want to understand.
Yeah.
Tell me why you feel this way, or tell me what your thought process is behind that. Because that's another thing is I think I hate labeling people, or I hate because we all have different meanings to attachments to certain words and different values. What one word means to me might mean something completely different to you. So that's and that's kind of the life coaching thing too, as well. It's like, I want to understand what that word or what this means to you. What does that particular issue? What is this social issue? Or what is it about this? I just try to understand.
And it gets more into like the human aspect of it. I mean, that's why I have spoken out about abortion rights, because I had one, and if more people stepped up and said, I had one, well, it takes two parties. So the number of women it is, there's dudes in that too. Right. Know? And so I think we would all be astonished. And people are
Thank you for sharing
personal.
That. Yeah.
Thank you. People, I know it's personal, but I believe in honoring my own choices, honoring, how I felt in that moment, and knowing that other people are going to go through that. So, I guess I just felt like, is it authentic not to say something in those instances, And
I think that's where you are on your personal journey and your comfortability.
And it's challenging with two kids, with two daughters, because I think a lot of people don't want to tell their kids. I mean, my 13-year-old looked at me in the face the other day and just was like, have you done drugs? And I was like, oh, here we go. Like, you're just sitting on the couch and these questions pop up and you're just like, oh, I guess we're going to, okay.
Right.
Yes, and so we go down that path. And so, how are you going to approach your own authenticity?
Right.
Because you were like, that works for Dolly. Well, yeah, maybe it does. Maybe she's just not a political person,
Right.
you know? And that's cool. Like
Right.
what works for that person.
Yeah. And I think to your testament as well, I feel like children too, that's a whole different animal. Like I'll never be able to speak to that. And I just, in watching, like I told you, that R. Kelly series, seeing the developmental capabilities of, well, just the developmental stage of these children that were going through this, that were not developed yet, that were under trauma and things that were happening to them at such an early age that they're not yet mentally developed enough to process and understand. So I am that is one thing. I mean, that's clinical, that's science, that's not an opinion or subjective, that's facts. And so for me with my platform and what I do, I don't stay neutral. And I think there's some things, there's a time and a place. You know, I'm not sitting here. I did have someone that was close to me at the time that I was seeing who told me that I wasn't using my platform to speak about racism. He's like, you don't speak and we got into it. And I was like, okay, well, I guess we're going here. And it's like, I am not in your situation to speak about that. That's not my platform. This is what my platform means to me. Talking about women's rights, femininity, empowering. That's my journey. And it's different from, and I told him about my sexual, but the fact that I even had to explain all that to him, again, was a red flag for me, because I was like, that's not, why should I have to, he's projecting onto me for his own insecurities, and I had
forcing you to justify your own choices.
Exactly. And that where I had to explain, I'm like, I don't have to even explain to you why my platform's about this. I don't owe you anything, any type of explanation. And I explained it to him, and he was like, oh, well, you never explained it like that. I go, well, why is it that I don't have to explain it to these other 25,000 people, but have to explain it to you? It's for you to understand why I'm not using my platform to talk about racism. And I talk about it, but it's not something I talk about every day, because that's not something that I'm going through every single day as this person is going through, or other people are going through that, or his audience. And so it was very shifting of perspective, and I speak to what, and I think that's another thing too, and to almost a fault, is we kind of, it's hard for us sometimes to put ourselves outside of our own shoes and think about how, like, for instance, with abortion rights, people that have not personally had that experience, or have not, it doesn't affect them. They're
if it doesn't affect you, you just sort of learn to live with it.
They're older. They're like, this doesn't affect me. I don't have to, whatever.
Right.
They don't care. It's through their lens. And so for me, I try to do a good job of that, of really kind of zooming out and being like, okay, how is this affecting other people? And so for me, I'm just, as long as I do believe love is love, I have the same thing. I want my own rights to my own body. I don't want to be told what to do. It's just common sense to me. Do unto others, you want them to do unto you.
Yeah.
And if you're not doing that, if there's like, I had someone this morning, I posted a thing about Beto, and someone's like, he's trying to take away our guns.
Oh, here we go.
And I was like, no, he's not. He's trying to take away guns from people that shouldn't have guns.
He's trying to get less people killed.
Literally. And someone goes, we all have a friend, someone messaged and they were like, we all have that one friend that we know. They're like, oh, damn, that person should not have a gun. You know, there's like every gun owner knows another gun person.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. So I guess for me, it's more like common sense. Like you said, with those types of things. Yes, we should have psych evaluations. Yes, we should do our due diligence to see who has got this, who needs an AR-15 in the city.
Nobody.
Right.
Nobody. But that is my opinion. And we could walk down a whole road with that. But really, I'm a realist and I'm a Texan. So no one's trying to take the things away.
Exactly.
But we are trying to just create a better world for people to live in, where they don't have to live in fear of getting shot by anyone, by a domestic partner, which is a leading cause, or by themselves in a dark moment, which is one of the number one, gun deaths is suicide, and people, dying by suicide. And so, can we make that better? Yes, we can.
With mental health. And yes, I agree. And that's what was hard, I think, when that came out in Uvalde. I actually used to go to Uvalde every other week. Wow. So I know exactly where that school is. I know exactly, it was part of my route, driving by it every day or every other week, and very, very familiar. So it was knowing all that was going on. But like you said, it was just people, we're not trying to take anything away, or just doing the due diligence of making sure that people are safe. And you mentioned suicide and what did you say right before that? You said,
I said domestic partner.
oh yeah, domestic partners. To me, the scariest thing in this world is the bruised ego of a man, because it's typically what a lot of
lashing out comes from.
A lot of lashing out. I'm sure there's a bunch of women. It's happened to me. Like, turning this guy down. He's texting me
I bet everyone has a story.
Oh, everyone. You get called a bitch walking down the street. Oh, or you're like, don't respond to them.
Yeah.
You're a bitch. Or oh, nope, sorry, peace. Like, there's like, you're whatever. That's like the immediate response.
Oh, it's super scary.
Yeah. And that's not okay. It's not okay to do that. We should be allowed, just because you want to comment about me or say something about me or say something to me does not mean that I have to respond to you.
Oh.
But they feel that's the ego. They want control. They don't want to feel. No one likes to feel rejected. Right. But when that happens, and it happens not as much to me, but when it happens, it does slightly trigger me, because I'm like, why? What's the point? Like, why can't you just respect my boundary? That's not okay. And I didn't even have to respond to this person, and I chose to, because it was a professional, and I was like, okay, I'm sensing this person's trying to kind of hint around, asking me out, and I just said something very polite and got like this kind of rude text back. And I was like,
wow,
okay.
Yeah.
That was not expecting that, and screw that guy. But I didn't do anything wrong. And that's another, like, the victim, we typically blame ourselves, and that's, as a female, I'm like, you can't do that. We can't blame ourselves. It's not our fault that we're not attracted to that person, or we're not connected with that person.
Yeah. Or whatever it is.
Whatever it is. I don't have to explain anything. Yeah. You're like, you don't have to explain anything, but if I don't want to respond, I don't even want to respond.
Yeah. Do you want to talk today I think this is a nice segue. Do you want to talk any about what you're building now? Yeah.
So, well, in addition to everything else going on with Concert Queen, but I'm in the beginning stages. I've had it. I'm a perfectionist by nature, and if something is not, and the enemy of perfectionism is good enough. So I've gotten to a point now, I'm like, it's just time with everything going on to get.
Because the first iteration of anything is not going to be that great. Right. We got to just face facts.
Which is so hard for me, because I don't want anything to be half-assed. I don't do anything half-assed.
But it's not. You're putting your best into it. It's going to be the best it can be right now, and it's only going to get better.
Right. But it's going to help protect women in nightlife culture and in entertainment. And it is going to be a nonprofit that I want to start. And for me, I have the whole layout, the plan, the role. I know exactly what needs to happen. And it's more action-based than, I would say, of awareness. Because I think there's a lot of, and I think that's great too. I think, again, where everyone is on their own personal journey, especially when it comes to protecting women, and women that I have way too many friends who have been roofied, date raped. I personally have been roofied 3 times. Like, there's just...
What?
Yeah.
What happened?
Oh, God. That's a whole world.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it's happened 3 different times. And actually, I have a podcast where I talk about that.
Oh, okay.
As well.
Okay.
Just talking about women and...
If you give me those links, I'll put them in the show notes.
Yeah, I definitely will. I definitely will, because I go into...
we can remember what we talked about.
I go into detail. We'll forget. I'll have to listen back and then tell you the show notes.
I'll remember.
I won't.
It's a skill. I've been working on it.
Yeah, I already forgot the last however long we've been talking, but yeah, it happened to me, and I put it all on the podcast, just the signs and the things that have happened, but it has to stop. And where I am is I'm totally fine, and I'm comfortable, and I'm ready to lead the charge against it. And I know I can take action. It's like everything in my life has been building to this point.
Yes, those life coaching pieces of the puzzle, all these things, they fit together. Even medical sales kind of fits in there.
Medical sales, I feel like everything has just led me to this. And so it's a matter of just getting it started, which is why I want to talk to Justin with the nonprofit.
Yes,
and
for sure.
Really just putting the wheels into motion. But I already see it, and I know what's going to happen, and it's going to change the world. And I want women to know that there's a solution. And I have the solution. I know the solution, and I know it's just assembling these people. So if this is like a call to action of people that have experience, and I'll go into greater detail probably at a later time, or
yes,
a podcast with
but talking about it gives it momentum.
Yes,
I'm a huge believer.
That's a great, So you're going to hold me to it.
Well, not only
I've
that,
been
it's
wanting
floating
to do
around out there. You're putting this energetic, piece of the puzzle out there, and
100%.
it starts to generate.
Yes. And like you said, it just has, I know what needs to happen. And that's probably the biggest. I'm a person, and people have said this to me before, that when I want something, if I don't get the answer, or, my old bosses used to, because I used to just go until I would get the answer. I'm like very impatient like that. I'm like, if I can't go
impatient
through you, I will go through you, around you, above, like wherever, to get what I need to get. And that's kind of where I'm like, I need to do this, and I'm ready. And, the nonprofit, you have to have so many people on this board. And I'm like, I'm ready to go. Like, I don't need these. I need other people, but I just want to go and start raising. And I know once the ball gets rolling on it, it's going to, and it's not vilifying men. I want to make that very clear at all. It's going after predators that are in the industry in their own different ways. And there's a lot of safeguards that I have for women, and a lot of ideas that just need to get put into action. And once those are implemented, they'll be able to be replicated, and to just help women and give the platform and the space and the voice for the women who, as someone who's been through it, through all these various scenarios that can
I'm sure
connect
there's
with
men
them.
too.
Yeah. Oh, there's men.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then the gay community, that's coming. That's kind of the second phase to it, because
Cool.
that does happen to the LGBTQ community. A lot of gay men are exploring their sexuality and will get raped.
Yeah.
So that's coming, but that's a whole separate animal. So I want to concentrate first on women.
Nice.
And protecting women, protecting daughters, cousins, moms. We all have someone that's been affected by it. And I think that's kind of a common misconception. Is I had this guy once that was like, oh, I feel like this only happens to you and your friends. Oh yeah. It was a big
he has a lesson coming.
moment. Oh, he did. I was like, hold up, because I was like, no, I'm the only person that's talking about it. So the women and it's just an onslaught of, and I told him, I go, ask 5 women, because 1 in 5 women has had some type of sexual assault experience, something of that nature. I was like, go ask, and there's gonna be someone in your immediate circle that this has happened to, and it's got to stop. And the only way it's going to stop is by attacking these predators, the toxic masculinity that I feel like is just kind of breeding behind the screens now, because we're just being fed, especially men, as far as it's just, there's not a lot of this, there's not a lot more talking. We're all just being kind of conditioned to our screens and to our phone screens. And, you can swipe at this, in a second and move on to the next person. And there's not that communication. We're not being taught those communication skills of how to have these conversations, of how to just approach a woman doesn't have to be sleazy or manipulative or slip something in her drink. And it's got to stop, because and like, again, I want to reiterate the fact that it's not vilifying men. Men are great. And there's even like a whole part to this nonprofit that because I have a lot of men too that reach out, they're like, what can I do? And I have that solution as well.
Cool.
I have a whole thing, just need to do it. So I'm excited once it gets going, because I just feel once the ball gets rolling on that, it's off to the races, and I'm super energized by it. And I know that that's and it's so funny now that I'm in this, I don't know if you're on the pattern. You're on the pattern.
Oh yeah.
I sent you a friend request.
Oh, you did? I haven't been on it in a while.
No, it's okay.
I'll look.
But yeah, I'm on there, and it's funny because everything has been talking about, like, I'm in this phase right now called mission realignment. And it's basically saying that I've found my sacred calling. I found this is what I want to do. And that's
I got a little chill.
My life's work is essentially what it's always called. And I know that this is it. And I always wanted to be that person that knew what they wanted. I was always talking about envy. That was my biggest thing of envy, was just seeing these people. I'm like, wow, they just really
that must feel good.
They just love being a farmer. They really love what they're doing, and they're so happy. Like, I want to find that. I want to have that. And I know that this is it. And I know this is my calling to do that. And it feels so good to know, like, this is what everything, all those heartbreaks, all the therapy sessions, all the improv, all the life coaching, all the communication skills, all the people, all the concerts, all the music festivals, everything. I can use all of it.
All the times you got roofied.
Yeah. I personally have learned what that feels like. I've been through that experience.
I mean, it's so funny too. Sometimes I look at like the hardships and I'm like, I have to just realign and go, this is part of the whole story.
Yes.
This is part of,
Amen.
So whatever you're going through right now, it's part of that bigger story, because you're going to be able to say, oh yeah, I had my first event and one person came, cause I've had interviews with people and they're like, 2 people showed up, or, whatever that hurdle is, it's okay. And I've even looked at my social media like that now. And yes, I would love to connect and create this great community, but I'm like, this is part of it. I have to live in this space in order to get to that space.
Yes.
It doesn't happen instantly,
Yes.
as nice as it would be.
And that's the common misconception I think people have all the time.
All the time.
I leave the TV on for my dog as I was walking out, because of course he's priority Leon. And I put some random it was some TV show from some old, it's like just whatever TV show I put on. And I was walking by and I'm like, oh my God, that's John Travolta, who's just like an extra in this show.
Part of his
and
story.
You see him, I just saw him I was like, that's John Travolta. And he's just walking by. He's not actively in the scene. And I was like, wow. But that just goes to show you, he had to start from somewhere. All of these actors and these actresses and what we're doing, we all had to start somewhere.
And he had to start all over too. He's probably a really good example.
Tina Turner.
Yeah.
Had to start. That's another great documentary. Had to start over after her divorce because the only thing she had was her name.
That's it.
And that's it. And so it's okay to get started, because people are always like, oh, I want to do that. But do they want to do the work behind it?
Yeah.
I had a girl one time who was like, oh, I love what you do. And I feel like I could do it. I'm funny. And I was like, okay, cool, do it. And she's like, but I feel like it's going to take a lot of time. I'm like, well, you don't want it. Simple as that. She's like, for real? I was like, no, you're not going to do it. You have to love it. You have to really be it. And it's funny that I meet people that are quote unquote maybe higher up in their career doing what I'm doing or in some different way, and they're just miserable people. And it's because they don't really truly love it, and they're just doing it because it is a job. But I truly love it. I love sitting down with you. I love sitting down with artists and just having that creative space for them and music. And that's my passion. That's my love. And connecting with people in a very genuine, authentic way. So
beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, I love that thought, and I want to turn the floor over to you now, because we're getting close on time. And so, anything that is on your heart or that you really didn't want to miss saying today here in this space.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I guess if people can. For me, it's like what you said, yes, there's Concert Queen, and yes, there's this. And I want people to know that what I stand for is integrity. Everything that I post about, everything that people I surround myself with have all been vetted out. The events I go to, the brands I work with, there's so much that goes on behind the scenes that people don't see. And I'm not one of those people that just takes a paycheck and starts posting about this. And I've seen some people, I remember this girl posted an event and I was like, oh, are you going to go to this? And she's like, no. I was like, what? Well, then why are you posting about it?
Yeah.
And it didn't make any sense to me, but it's because she got paid. And so for me, that I'm not that person. And I'm always, anything that I do, I look at myself, I'm not going to be your phone book. I'm not going to show you everything that's going on. I'm going to tell you what I personally, and I love the audience, the people that recognize that and they know that. I've had people be like, oh, what is this? I bought a ticket and I have no idea what it is.
Me.
You just said it was
I'm one of them.
Yeah.
I'm one of
yes,
those
you
people.
trust me. And I want to always keep that. And so if people, because I have people like, okay, is this really cool? I'm like, yes, I just want people to know that about me, that I'm exactly who I say I am. I'm not trying to be anything else, because
You're like eating at a farm-raised restaurant.
There you go. Exactly.
You are.
But I just want people to know that, because I feel like that is a misconception, especially in a world of kind of whatever. People, they all have their own reasons to do their own things. And I want to always hold on to that, because I feel like that is who I am. That's why I want to maintain that integrity and just tell
I do
people.
too. I do too.
Yeah. It's important. And I think it's important. And then, because people see through it right away if they don't connect with it. And I've had to kind of spin certain things, because I'm like, okay, maybe this is something that maybe I personally, and I've just been transparent. I'm like, I personally have not tried this out, or I personally have not been to this event yet before. And I tell people, and I usually tell people that, but I'm almost like a critic, and I don't want to call myself a critic because I'm not looking to be critical. I just am not going to, if I don't know you or you're a new event promoter and they're just like, what's your price? I'm like, what's your product? What's your event? What are you doing? It doesn't matter. someone reached out the other day that says the same thing. I'm like, well, what can you do for this? I'm like, well, tell me more about you. Who are you? Who are the people that behind this event? Because that's another thing. I'm like, have you done this? I went to Fire Festival. That's a whole different animal. So
You went to that?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Another podcast. And that's one of my like early shows. And I say like a lot. I was still learning and those nuances, and I get annihilated in the comments for saying like a lot. But talking about but the overshadowing of that, if you can get past that, you can just watch it for what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like the 5th podcast I'd ever done.
So what?
Exactly. But people are just coming at the keyboard warriors, and but like you said, but that became like, I never want that to happen to someone else. I never want someone else to be stuck on a deserted island by themselves and
with a cheese sandwich or whatever you had.
That's a lie. I ate so good the whole time I was there.
Really?
Yeah, the whole thing that's like the facade of all that. Yeah.
Oh, well, good. You ate well.
One of those myths of Fire Festival. I ate very well.
Okay.
I did not. This girl does not skip meals, so I made sure I was like, there's food. Survival of the fittest, and you're just going on adrenaline at that time. And I ate good Jamaican jerk chicken. I had all kinds of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, anyway.
Yeah.
Anyways,
so sorry, tangent. We started about food.
Total tangent.
I don't know if you've heard my stomach growling. That's why I'm like, oh, food.
I haven't eaten today either.
Okay, but yeah, that's probably what I would want people to know is that and then just female empowerment, and there's something coming big, and just support any way that you can. And people, I think it doesn't always have to be financially, just sharing content, just telling someone about something, hitting the like button, putting comment in. I think people just assume that they don't have to do that, but those are our metrics. That helps me get other things with brands.
Yes. And doing that for everybody. If you really care about somebody, I'm like, sometimes I'll catch myself just scrolling, and I'm like, I'll go back, and I'm like, no, I like that person. I want to support. I want to show support.
Yes. And that's what I think people don't realize is they just assume like, no, you have to, that algorithm is tough. And that's why I'm looking at different things in different ways and different mediums. But it is something that's how you support me, is by telling people, sharing it, going and taking that extra 5 minutes to go like a YouTube channel or do this or do that. And that's not asking for a lot. If you do want to give me money, that's fine too.
Yeah.
But overall, just stay true and just who you are. And that's all I'm going to be. Just keep doing me and keep hanging out with you, hopefully.
If you could put up a billboard downtown that could say one thing, what would it say? What would you put on a billboard?
Oh my God. Well, it would be the name of the nonprofit that I don't want to say.
Okay. If you could put a message on a billboard, what would it say?
Oh man.
I know this is a really hard question, and I'm really glad I don't have to answer it.
I was going to flip it back on you. Just be who you want to be. Because it's literally, I don't know. I just feel
be who you want to be. I love that.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what I live. Be who you want to be.
And you are. In your short shorts and whatever the fuck you want to wear.
Oh God.
I read that. I read that the other day.
See, that's another thing. Like I won't get, sometimes I do get triggered. If someone...
It's okay to get a little fiery. Yeah, and it's okay to not let something slip by.
All it did was make me creative. And I was like, I'm going to come after this girl. And this girl literally been tormenting me and I didn't even see it because I don't look at some of the messages I had, but I just started scrolling up. I was like, oh wow, she's been making comments to me for a while. And then she made a comment about those shorts. And I was like, okay. And then of course someone was like, I want to know what she said. And I was like, I don't even want to know. And I ended up looking later on just because I was like, it's not, because I had taken myself back to a place of calmness.
Yeah.
And I was like, regardless of what she says, I already know she's going to make herself out to be the victim. I knew that. I was like, here it comes. And sure enough, she's like, what are you talking? And gaslighting me, telling me you're crazy. I was
just saying.
I was just saying that. Someone can't even make an opinion about someone's shorts without them I'm like, that you're gaslighting. But I never responded. But that's the kind of stuff. And what I felt
that's
bad
where you got to
about,
protect your energy.
She has a daughter. And I was like, I know that I hope she doesn't do this to her daughter, but just seeing the foresight we all turned out okay. So hopefully that doesn't spill over into being critical of her daughter.
Yeah.
In that fashion. If her daughter wants to wear some short shorts and it's just some inadequacy in herself, it has nothing to do with me.
Nope.
But it's just like, damn. And that's why it was very not tied to self-worth, but very validating for that girl to come up to me and tell me those things. She's like, I just love what you stand for. And just the people that do come up to me throughout the court, I love it. It keeps me going. So even though like I'm not going to be fishing for compliments, I'll take them all day long.
Yeah.
We all need those. We all need to. And I'm the first person to hype people up too.
Yes, you are.
I love that.
And I'm so grateful for that. And I'm hyping you up too.
Thank you. We continue to do that. But I appreciate, this has been so fun.
It's been so wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you so
please,
much.
can you just share all your links and what you're promoting right now?
Concert Queen Official is my Instagram. Got a YouTube channel that has a podcast called Concert Queen Connect that is coming back.
Good. Congrats.
Yeah, it's coming back. Everything kind of came back at once. When I was like, okay, now I'm trying to balance all this. So I'm getting help. I'm getting all these different things and being able to kind of take some off my plate to help other people. So I can do it frees up my time to go work on this nonprofit, do these different things and answer those emails and do the things that maybe kind of get left to the side for me. So I'm excited. But I have an agent now who's amazing.
Oh, congrats on that too. Good for you.
She's incredible. Lauren Seegers. I love you. So we're just moving and trucking along.
Good.
So,
well, congrats on all your building. I'm excited to see the growth and as it develops and everything.
So that's great. Same with you. And let me know if there's anything I can do to support you.
You're here. You showed up for this, and that's just important. Sharing your voice and sharing your perspective is inspiring for others, and that's what's important. So
you as
to
well.
me, all
Keep
about
doing
voice.
that as
yes,
well. Don't
thank you.
stop because
I'm not fucking stopping.
Good.
I'm not. I'm like,
keep going.
I'll get a depressed moment, and then I'm like, okay, am I really going to stop? And I'm like, no, of course not. Of course not. So,
just
keep on keeping on, everybody.
Beautiful outfits. I'm like gonna go read your closet now because I'm.
Oh, you should.
I'm like the thought just came to me like, oh wait, Amy's closet.
I am a stone's throw from Amy's closet.
She's got an incredible closet, y'all, as well.
You do.
We look at each other. I'm like, oh, I actually have that.
I'm like,
we have
what size
there's
are those
similar
shoes?
outfits. Yeah, literally. Thank you so much again.
I love you. Thank you so much.
I love you.
Everything will be in the show notes too. So thank you so much.
Which you'll remind me of.
Yes.
This has been the Amy Edwards Show from Overcome Studios. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe. And thank you so much for being here. Sign up for our newsletter at amyedwards.com.